You've seen these videos a million times. Either Sonic R kicked a puppy, or the PNG with crossed arms says the game is awful, but at least the music is good. But this means absolutely nothing, because every Sonic game has good music. So if the game is really this bad, why are people still playing it after 25 years of this, and this, if the music is all Sonic R is good for?
You've been lied to your whole life.
And if you just played the game like you were supposed to? The biggest problem with Sonic R is bad comparisons. This is absolutely nothing like this. And by sales numbers alone, it would make sense you probably played Sonic R after you played Sonic Adventure. Most people went from a tight action platformer with cutscenes, upgrades, and sex appeal to a racing game with 2 polygons and tank controls. You can't expect this in a game like this because they're just very different games on very different hardware. And if you've never controlled a game like this, it's going to be very hard to play Sonic R, especially when gameplay is less about platforming and more about racing. So it'd really be better to compare Sonic R to an actual racing. Mario Kart has made you awful at racing games. The simple controls, simple tracks, and items that reward you for sucking take all the skill out of the game. Even if you're the best player in the world, one bad red shell can ruin your entire game. But this isn't entirely a bad thing, because this makes the game very approachable for new players, and the randomness keeps things fresh for longtime fans. Games like Mario Kart are awesome, but they aren't actually racing games. They're party racing games. Just how there's simulation racing games, arcade racing games, not dead anymore racing games, and in most of them, jumping right into the campaign at max difficulty with no idea how to play is a horrible idea. But in Mario Kart, just going for it is how it's done, because Mario Kart has these. So even if you're the worst player in the world, one good red shell can save your entire game. With enough luck, anyone could play well, meaning you only need to practice if you want to play really well. If you only played Mario Kart, you would not survive other racing games, because most games expect you to practice for. If I could change one thing with Sonic R, it'd be changing this to say this instead, because calling it time attack isn't the full story. When you're used to getting first place without even practicing, it makes sense you'd suck at an actual racing game. The controls, the levels, the characters. Instead of embarrassing yourself and blaming the game, just practice. When the game offers a training mode, and you desperately need training, why wouldn't you use it? Sonic R lets you learn the stages forward and backward. You can take as much time as you need because there's nobody else here. It even tells you where to go, for the most part. Because in most racing games, the biggest shortcuts you have are just cutting corners, or at best, a secret tunnel or alternate path that really doesn't save you a lot of time. And yeah, you can do this in Sonic R, but there's a lot more to the stages than being just a racetrack. These are racetracks, and these are zones. Just like the classic games, every zone has multiple routes, so instead of several basic racetracks, you get entire zones to explore and experiment with just to see what works. And the best way to see this for yourself is with this mode. Not only can you practice your movement as much as you want, with any character you want, this mode is designed as a scavenger hunt that's going to help you find all the hidden areas and shortcuts to use during a race. And once you know how to get around the zones forward, backward, and everywhere in between, now the characters run away from you and hide all over the level, and you can see where they are on the map. Now you can use all those shortcuts you learned to get where they are as fast as possible. And even after just a little practice, you could go from this to this. And if Sonic R were like any other racing game, that would be it. But it's not. You know all the shortcuts, you know these buttons exist, and maybe you even know some character-specific tricks too. So now you go to the Grand Prix, take all the best routes, get first in every stage, and unlock Eggman. This is where the real game starts, because Sonic R was never about just getting to the credits. Hidden in every stage are 5 Sonic tokens. They're kinda like these things, but if you don't get all 5, they don't count. Instead of needing to play the stage 3 different times with 3 different routes to get them all, Sonic R just gives you 3 laps to do the same thing. So even if you know the fastest way to go, you'll need to take the other paths to get all the tokens. But just finding the tokens isn't enough, because nothing happens if you lose. But if you can make it to top 3, and if you can win this race, you unlock them. That's 4 sets of tokens and 4 secret characters. I know 9 racers may not seem like a lot, but just like the zones, it's quality over quantity. Because when the only character variety in Mario Kart is big guy, little guy, and Yoshi, it really makes you appreciate how unique each playstyle in Sonic R is. Because in addition to simple stat changes, each character has a special ability that other characters don't. This is because Sonic R is more of a platformer than a racing game, but it's also more of a racing game than a platformer. So this just means Sonic R has to be a Half of you went into Sonic R expecting a platformer. The other half went into Sonic R expecting a racing game. And you're both right, because you're both wrong. This is exactly what it sounds like, a platformer that you can race in. And nobody seems to realize we've been playing these for a long time. Even games that aren't technically platform racers, you'll end up playing them like platform racers. Any game can say you're moving at 1500 fasts per hour, but what actually feels faster? Traveling at several times the speed of light, or just being able to go faster than someone else? Even in slower paced games, speed is always relative. And in a franchise all about speed, competition just makes sense. It doesn't matter how fast you can beat a level when player 2 will absolutely destroy you. Anybody can find the 7 Chaos Emeralds, get first place, unlock Supersonic, and win every game. Congratulations, you won as the character made to win. Playing as Supersonic is the victory lap, not the challenge. He's supposed to be broken so you can race against him. The point of Sonic R was never character balance. The point of Sonic R is to play more Sonic R. I've played this thing almost every day for most of my life, and I still learn something new every time I play. Even now, I still haven't run out of things to try, and to me, Sonic R is by far the greatest game of all time. But it almost didn't exist. And even if you hate Sonic R, we almost got something much worse.